Eric Hawkins on your left, Brad Nelson on your right. It's Affinity versus Death Shadow Aggro. This should be a little bit interesting to watch. This Death Shadow deck is very different, but it is very powerful. Sam Black, a big proponent of this deck. He's a very large fan, likes it a lot, thinks it's one of, if not the best decks in Modern, and we're going to see how Affinity does against it. Hawkins on 6 cards with an Ornithopter. Vault Scourge going to bring him down to 18, along with the Blinkmoth Nexus, and we're underway here in round 10.
And the same thing that I talked about last round in the Infect versus Dredge matchup, also true here. I like these decks a lot because they both do a lot for 0 mana.
Yep. It's a Mirish's Bauble. A card that we don't see a lot of, so we'll let you take a look at it. A Cold Snap favorite.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. The old Bauble. Brad will play a Wooded Foothill. So this one, with the Bauble, you sacrifice it. You look at the top card of target player's library. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So Brad took a look at the top card of his deck. He said, I'm not really sure I like that one very much. So I'll play a fetch land in Wooded Foothill. Sacrifice that to go get a Blood Grip. Bring myself down to 17. Very important for Death Shadow.
Cold Snap tried to borrow some of Ice Age's design sensibilities with the delayed cantrips.
He did, yes.
I don't know why that would be a thing, but it is, and so now we get to see a little bit of a Modern.
Brad will draw a card from the Bauble. He'll pass the turn back. Lightning Bolt was the draw. And Brad says, hold on just a second. I might have some effects here still in the upkeep. And he does. Going to Lightning Bolt Vault Scourge. Smart play there from Nelson, simply because I think he wants to slow down a card like Mox Opal.
Yep.
There's Inkmoth Nexus here, Signal Pest, another Vault Scourge. Hawkins will take 2 to play that one. And now Ornithopter, well, it's not going to attack.
The trash can has been emptied out. got it all out there.
Didn't find any diamonds in the rough so far.
None of the payoffs.
Uh-huh.
No Cranial Platings, no Arcbound Ravagers.
See what Nelson asks for a second turn of the game. He's going to sacrifice a Windswept Heath.
I never liked the Affinity matchup when I was playing Zoo the last time around because I felt the decks were about as fast and about as powerful, but I was taking a ton of damage off my own lands and they were not, and that felt like the tipping point. I'm curious. Brad's deck obviously has a lot of the same issues. It's dealing damage to itself on purpose. But is the mixture of Temur Battle Rage plus Become Immense enough power to play over the top or get a kill an extra turn faster that it's worth it?
Street Wraith, got to bring Nelson down to 12. Gets a new card. And now here is Death Shadow. It is online, and we'll take a look at the powerful deck. The namesake card of the deck, and how it might kill Eric Hawkins very soon here. Now it gets -X, where X is your life total. So it gets -12, so it's just a 1/1. It's not even good.
No.
Nothing impressive about this at all. But I've got a feeling it's going to get a little bit more impressive as this game does go. For Hawkins, you're getting kind of weird spots against this deck. Where, I mean, Eric wants to attack him. Yep. The goal is to get him to 0. But the more you attack the Death Shadow aggro deck, the better Death Shadow it becomes. So what to do, what to do? That is the question. Cranial Plating has shown up. Vault Scourge is going to wear the hat.
I think Nelson with a Lightning Bolt in hand if he wants to break this up.
Mm-hmm. Or if he wants to Lightning Bolt himself.
Also an option?
Yeah. That one's certainly in play. A weird thing to say, but it's in play.
Probably have to kill the Vault Scourge because Eric gets all the life back that you're picking up.
Yeah.
Unless you had Temur Battle Rage, that's the only card that could make that change the equation a little bit.
He plays 4 copies of it. Here come the Knuckleheads. Nelson reaching for the mana. I think we're going to see that Lightning Bolt that you mentioned. There it is to take care of the Vault Scourge. So 1 point's going to come through. Nelson's going to fall down to 11. And now Death Shadow is a 2/2. Time for Nelson's 3rd turn of the game, I believe.
So he has a very land-heavy hand.
Yes, it does.
Has become immense. I don't think he has a way to deal himself more than 3 damage right now. I think he can simply sacrifice a fetch land and get an untapped dual land.
Mutagenic growth become
Oh,
immense.
never mind. Okay, so mutagenic growth plus the fetch land plus the dual land is 5. So he can get himself down to 6. Which makes Death Shadow a 7/7. Is that right? Then mutagenic growth is 9. Then become immense is 15. So
Yeah.
a point short by my read of things.
Yeah, a little short. But if he does that, then he might just die.
Right.
You know?
He sort of needs to kind of hang back and keep up appearances and then burst down in one turn.
Yeah.
But without Temur Battle Rage, without an effect that gives trample, the problem is next turn Hawkins is going to have access to a sea of chump blockers. He's got his various creature lands down there, and he can just say, okay, I'll put Cranial Plating on my Ornithopter, attack with that, pass with a lot of blockers back. So this might be Nelson's one window to get in a bunch of damage, and then maybe he can draw to a Lightning Bolt or something else next turn.
It's a weird deck.
Yep.
It's because you have to play this balancing act of your life total and their life total when you're playing Death Shadow.
It's also the quintessential Modern deck in that it kills in 3 turns and the game takes 20 minutes somehow.
Yeah. That's very true. It's very, very true. All right, in. Because Brad also has to make a prediction of how much Eric can attack for next turn.
Right.
That's the other part of this.
And Affinity is a bit of a math puzzle itself.
It is. So there's a lot of things going on in that head right now. That's the reason this turn's taking so long. All right, after all that, okay, take 2.
So I think Brad's plan here is he has to draw to Temur Battle Rage no matter what at this point.
Okay.
So he wants to keep his life total high to give himself as many possible draw steps to find Temur Battle Rage. If he shoves everything and knocks Hawkins down to 1, he's really only drawing to 2 copies of Lightning Bolt.
Well, he's used them both.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
I assumed he played 4. He only has the 2.
Yep.
So at that point, he's drawing to maybe Monastery Swift Spear as his only way to win. So he just wants to give himself as many draw steps as possible.
Hawkins is going to fire up Inkmoth Nexus and go this route.
And doing it through the Inkmoth Nexus is very smart because
Yeah, it
it's
is.
not damaging Brad's life total here.
Yep.
So he can hang back with as many chump blockers as possible. Based on the nature of Brad's hand, I don't think it matters if he draws Temur Battle Rage. I think it's going to be a trillion,
Yeah.
but this is still the right line to take.
Yeah. And he's going to activate the Blinkmoth Nexus and make it so it's a pretty healthy attack here.
Yeah.
And Brad is going to sack a land.
So Hawkins here trying to go for lethal in 2 turns without damaging Nelson's life total.
Mm-hmm. Sacred Foundry land that Nelson will find. So Nelson has 7 infects. So I think it might just be Temur Battle Rage or bust. He'll draw. Or was it a regular Gataxian?
A redraw.
A redraw. That's not it. And Eric Hawkins going to win game number 1 here over Brad Nelson. Affinity up a game here over Death's Shadow Aggro. And Nelson looks a little frustrated. Maybe he thinks he let that game get away.
I don't know. I think he played pretty solid, but you're looking at a deck here with 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17 lands total, and I think Brad drew at least 6 or 7.
He drew quite a few.
And there were a couple spots there where even something like Monastery Swift Spear might have been enough for him to cobble together lethal by the nature of his hand. So a little frustration there on the flood out. I think Nelson took the right line there to try to give himself the cushion necessary, give himself as many draw steps as possible, but Hawkins having access to Cranial Plating plus an infect creature was really bad for Nelson's line.
Well, to the sideboards we are gonna go. So we take a look here at Brad Nelson to start. A Forest Nile Spellbomb, a Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Path to Exile, Dismember Ranger of Eos, a Tarmogoyf, 2 Hooting Mandrills, 2 Inquisition of Kozilek, a Stony Silence, an Ancient Grudge, and a Pyroclasm.
So this matchup is still a pure race after board. A lot of Nelson's sideboard is, all right, I'm going to be playing against removal. I need to be able to play a longer game with things like Ranger of Eos, Tarmogoyf, and Hooting Mandrills. Not quite that kind of matchup here. I think he still wants to be fast, try to maximize his fast kills as much as possible. I do like the Ancient Grudge, the Stony Silence, the 2 copies of Path to Exile, and you could talk me into the Dismember as well.
Other side of things here for Eric Hawkins, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Spellskite, 2 Whip Flare, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Gearpow Aether Grid, and that's Champion, a Dismember, a Relic of Progenitus, a Grafdigger's Cage, and a Gut Shot.
I would probably shuffle up and present the same 16. I sideboard very light with Affinity. That's kind of my instinct. I think people over sideboard with this deck a lot. Maybe the 2 copies of Spellskite, you're playing against a deck with lightning bolts and creatures that Spellskites can block. But I wouldn't even mess around with things like the 1 Dismember. I don't think that's powerful enough in this matchup, and I think Hawkins' best plan, much like Nelson's best plan, is just to maximize the speed and efficiency of the deck.
Well, these players will shuffle up, get ready here for game number 2, so we'll move along very quickly to the StarCityGames.com. A weekly sale that's taking place. It ends at Monday. We got some cool stuff going on.
Yeah, every week at StarCityGames.com, there is a new weekly sale. Starts Monday, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, so make sure to be checking back to the website once a week. Check out what the sales are. This week, 10% off all non-English singles. So you can get your hands on Japanese Eternal Witness, Russian Simian Spirit Guide, also Japanese Akroma's Memorial.
And?
A German Elspeth.
There you go. Hey.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that you noticed
them
all.
Probably several other cards as well. So StarCityGames.com. Make sure to head over to the website before Monday, 11 o'clock Eastern Time this week, because the sale will end. But make sure to be checking back, as there is a new sale every week.
Back to the feature match area we do go. Players are going to take a look at their opening hands. As they take a look, let's learn a little more about Brad Nelson very quickly, shall we? Because I know people don't know who he is, so I think we should probably take a moment. What do you say?
Sure.
Learn more about Big Brad.
Relatively unknown local opponent.
Yeah. Just 30 from Roanoke, Virginia. 8 open top 8s, 1 open win, 2 invitational top 8s, 1 win. And the first Players Champion.
Yep.
And he's looking to get back to the Players Championship this year. It'll be his 3rd time there. It'd be 3 for 3 if he's able to qualify and get there again. And he said, I'm going to try to use this weekend to do so. As he's going to start things off with a Wild Mikado.
I believe on social media he referred to this tournament as a PCQ.
Yes, yes he did. It's a Verdant Catacombs getting a stomping ground for the powerful Kitty Cat. And now Mishra's Bobble.
Scope out the goods.
Let's see what you got going on over there, Eric Hawkins.
I want to know.
Brad gets a draw, and Eric gets a draw for his turn. To Mr. Hawkins we go. A Darksteel Citadel. And now to Springleaf Drum. Not at the fastest start, but we know that Affinity likes to build it up a little bit. Another Bauble. Brad is going to take a look at his top card, maybe. Yes.
Could inform whether or not he wants to shuffle with a fetch land.
Absolutely. Talked to Brad about the inclusion of Mishra's Bauble in this deck. I didn't quite get it at first, but it's the fact that you can kind of manipulate your draw, but also you have the opportunity to see your opponent's top card, know exactly what they're working with in combination with Gataxian Print.
Also, once your deck's playing Street Wraith, you are just sort of saying I'm in the market for everything that can cycle. Yep. That's 0 mana, because this deck is about assembling the combo of Temur Battle Rage, Become Immense, and one of the creatures. God
of the Shrine is here to turn on the Mikado completely, and now Stony Silence. That's a fun of.
Okay.
Yep.
This is a lot to handle.
Yes, it is. Ornithopter in the house. Blink Moth Nexus in the house, and that'll be Hawkins' turn. Back to Nelson we go.
Also, all these cantrips help a lot with the sideboard a bunch of one-of strategy.
That's
one copy of Stony Silence, but Brad gets to find his a lot more frequently than you would think, because, well, the Street Wraths and Mishra's Baubles and so forth.
Cycle the Street Wraith. Down to 13 goes Nelson. He got it with 3 more damage with the Wild Mikado, as we saw. And Arid Mason, a passing of the turn. Arcbound Ravager. And now past that turn, Nelson going to lose a little bit more life. Nelson, I believe, falls down to 12 now with that fetch line activation. And so now we'll move his way. All the colors of the rainbow online here for Brad. Doesn't really need any blue mana for this deck. Mikado coming in. Ravager going to block. And the counter will be placed onto the Ornithopter from the modular trigger. Anything else here for Nelson?
Looks like a hand of Become Immense, Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt, and some lands.
Yep. This deck doesn't have a ton of threats as there's a Verdant Catacomb. It's got the 4 Wild Mikados, 4 Monastery Swiftspear, 4 Death Shadow, and then 3 Step Links.
Yep. A lot of this deck it's shaving on numbers because of all the cycling, all the cantripping. You know, 17 lands might be a little light, and the number of threats in the deck, 19, might be a little light, but you are cheating a little bit.
Another Ornithopter.
15 threats, we can't really count the street raids.
No, I don't think you can.
I mean, you can cast it. I think he's got double black. Yeah, he's got Blood Crypt and Gala Shrine, yeah. It probably doesn't come up very often.
And he has 5 lands of tap for mana. Oh, yeah.
Easy.
The Street Wraith plan.
Yeah.
Easy, you say. Here's a Vault Scourge. Pass the turn back. Nelson is going to sacrifice Verdant Catacombs.
For example, the first time that I played Burn and Legacy, I didn't know what my fetch land versus mountain count should be.
Okay.
And eventually I went with 8 mountains because I had 4 Fire Blasts in the deck. That sounded right. Yeah. You don't want to run out. You don't want to run out. Same deal here. Yeah. You got the 5 lands. You got the 5 lands. You got your Street Raid. Double black. Is that an accident?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You don't want to come up empty.
No.
Here comes the Coddle. Ornithopter's going to block. See you later. Next up, Death's Shadow. A land for Nelson in Wooded Foothills. And he'll pass. Yes, he will. To Hawkins. I believe Thoughtseize may have been the draw.
Interesting to see that card in Hawkins' deck on the draw. You can maybe talk me into it on the play, given how threat light Nelson's deck is. I guess Hawkins has to respect the combo quite a bit. He doesn't have a lot of play against Become Immense, Team or Battle Rage.
Beatdowns. Nelson going to fall down to 8, which means Death's Shadow is going to grow. Hawkins, of course, gains a little bit of life in that exchange, but the more you hit Nelson, the more his best creature gets angry. Spellskite. That resolves. And path that. I think Brad might be clear for takeoff here.
Yep. I mean, he's been sitting on Bolt plus Become Immense for a while. Doesn't have to respect a lot of cards on the other side of the table. It's really only something like Dismember, and he's getting 4 life in that exchange also. So I think we're going to see Brad go for the kill this turn.
Nelson on the upkeep is going to sacrifice Wooded Foothills. He'll show Become Immense, and that Death Shadow is only getting larger as we go. And there's a Blood Crypt. And Hawkins does a little bit of math, and he says, all right, I am very dead. You are correct. As Brad Nelson is going to win game number 2 here over Eric Hawkins, Death's Shadow aggro. And Affinity are all tied up here, Patrick.
Well, Hawkins had what looked like a beautiful draw there, but Stony Silence blew it all up. And then he was just left with Ornithopters and 1/1 flyers for 2.
What do we call it? I think is at the bottom of the garbage can again.
Yep, the trash heap.
It certainly is the trash heap. Well, the sideboards are here on screen again, and I don't think a lot changes here for Eric. I think he can expect to see Stony Silence on the other side of the table, but what can you do about it?
Exactly, and there's only the 1 copy, so. If Hawkins was willing to put in Thoughtseize on the draw, I had to imagine he'll keep it in on the play.
These players are shuffling up pretty quick, so let's talk about the StarCityGames.com YouTube page, shall we, Patrick, where we got a lot of cool stuff going on and almost 100,000 subscribers.
Yep, you can subscribe right now at youtube.com/StarCityGames. Get notified when new content is uploaded on the page. A lot of great archives there, including Versus Series content, Commander Versus, Magic Online playtesting, Best of SCG Live, and much more. We're approaching 100,000 subscribers, thanks to all of you out there. And when we hit 100K, there is some sort of promotion or giveaway that Cedric can speak to with more information than I can. But for now, head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames. Become a subscriber today for free. Get notified when new content is uploaded to the page.
Eric Hawkins, will be on the play here for game number 3, so let's learn a little bit more about him. We haven't seen him as much this year as we did last year, where he made a very deep run in the race for the Players' Championship. Came up a little bit short, did Eric, unfortunately, but it's been a good run for him. Member of Team Nerd Rage Gaming is a 32-year-old from St. Paul, Minnesota. 2 open top 8s. Remember the runner-up finish where he lost to Tom Ross in the finals. Sports Fanatic plays a basketball on the regular, and every time we see him, we get to talk to him about basketball. He's a big T-Wolves fan who should have a pretty good season this year. Loves to publicly sing songs from Disney movies, and he makes his living by playing both Magic and Pocher.
Reason to be optimistic for the first time in a long time in Minnesota.
Absolutely.
Yep. Couple foundational pieces, new coach,
I'm going to be watching a lot of T-Wolves basketball. Get the old NBA League Pass and get ready to watch them bounce.
If they won, if they won 33, 34 games this year, I wouldn't be shocked.
I'm thinking playoffs, man.
Okay. You're a little bit more bullish on them than I am, but still.
Pretty optimistic.
First time for some optimism there in a while.
That's right. In the meantime, we got our Kevin Love. So thank you, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
I don't think they have any regrets on that deal.
Neither do we.
That's true. Everyone got what they were looking for.
Titletown, baby.
Yep. A title and a young foundational piece.
That's right.
Everyone's happy.
That's called a win-win.
Right.
Win-win-win. Looks like Hawkins going to slide down to 6 cards here. See these two off to a great start here this weekend. Both of them 9-0, having some fun in the feature match area. One of them is going to walk out of this one 10-0 and in prime shape to top 8 this tournament. Eric going to be looking at 6, as we did mention, and he will be scrying if he keeps it. Good enough, he says. And this card will stay on top. A land, it's a Blink-Moth Nexus, a Vault Scourge, a Memnite, as Eric does fall down to 18, and that's his turn.
That's nice.
It's the garbage can again.
Right. Look at what he did for 0 mana. A free creature.
Indeed.
And now it begins. Already complicated.
In the tank. This deck is really tough to play.
And Mishra's Bauble is just another piece of, it's small percentages, but the timing of it and where you're targeting does matter.
Gataxian Probe, we'll see Eric's hand of Arcbound Ravager, Spell Skite, and another Blink-Moth Nexus, so his hand is real.
Real good hand.
Yep. Really good mulligan.
Yep.
I gotta say.
And he scried to the top.
Yeah.
This was the problem that I had when I was playing Zoo, though not the Death Shadow build of it, was when I was on the draw and they had hands like this, I could barely keep up and I was taking a bunch of damage off my own lands.
Brad's gonna bobble Eric. Take a look.
Now they both know.
Yes.
The secret's out.
It is. We're the only ones who don't know.
Right.
So much fun to watch someone very skilled play this Death Shadow deck because it's really hard, but if you get it all right, it's a very hard deck to beat. Remember, Nelson has a card coming at the beginning of Eric's upkeep because of the bobble trigger. He knows exactly what Eric's hand is with that Arcbound Ravager, the Blink-Moth Nexus, and the Spell Skite.
All the info.
Now he's just got to figure out, okay, how do I work my way around all of this?
Also, just what mixture of dual lands do I want to get? And because not every fetch can get every dual land, like that's another thing.
Wooded Foothills will be sacrificed. 17 is the life total. And there's a Blood Crypt. And now Inquisition of Kozilek is where Nelson's going to start. So does he want that Spellskite or does he want the Ravager?
Unless he has it just has to be the Ravager. Clock is too fast.
It's just too powerful of a card, too.
There's hands where I guess I could just imagine taking the Spellskite, but Ravager is just too much.
Yeah. Spellskite's the play. Here come the beatdowns. Let's go to...
I guess if your hand was 2 copies of Lightning Bolt or something like that, but I think more than 9 times out of 10 you're going to be taking Ravager out of that hand.
Well, Nelson actually has the Pyroclasm in his hand right now. Remember, in Brad's deck, no basics. So all of these lands, these fetch lands, they deal 3.
Yep.
That's just a thing that's gonna happen.
And you really feel it when you're on the draw in this matchup. Because Affinity is often playing a much more efficient game than you on the first 2 turns anyway. And Brad's deck does not have all the removal in the world to slow that down.
A Godless Shrine off the Windswept Heath. It's going to bring Nelson down to 10. Nelson now is going to play Step Links and then a Death Shadow.
Really good setup for Pyroclasm next turn.
It sure is. To Hawkins we go. Now I think he has land plus plating. Whoo, boy, that's a good mulligan.
Yep. Well, he scryed to the top and then played Spellskite on 2 instead of some other proactive play. So
yeah.
Stands to reason it was a plating he left on top.
Downs. This is getting tough.
Not only does take some of the sting out of the Pyroclasm because
yes.
now he has plating plus Spellskite.
Yep. Well, this will be interesting because draw a card. Looking at a Street Wraith. Land because set him up in such a way where he can, play a fetch land with the with the Step Links, attack. Presumably, Eric is going to block it, and then he can Pyroclasm everything away, and then he's just got to be able to beat a Blink Moth Nexus.
I think Hawkins is, if he's going to commit a block here, I think it's more like Mem Knight goes in front of the deck.
Yeah.
And he takes the 4 from the Step Links.
Just because his life total's so high, too.
Yeah, he's at 25. The Mem Knight's not really critical here. So just move the plating onto a flyer.
Well, Brad's coming in with both.
I mean, even Lightning Bolt's enough of a reason to not commit the spell block here on the links, even Pyroclasm. Yeah,
Yep. That's going to do it. Eric Hawkins is going to win this match here over Brad Nelson. 2-1. Affinity is going to take care of Death Shadow, and a heck of a mulligan there from Eric. Getting the job done thanks to Spellskite providing a little defense. The goods. Eric Hawkins, 10-0.
Yeah. To Eric Hawkins, and that feels pretty close to me when I was playing my build of Zoo. I was trying